This just in to CBS Sports HQ. The first game in Dublin for the NFL is over, and Minnesota just barely lost this one, which didn't seem like the game was going in that direction. 21-24 Steelers. Aaron Rodgers 18 of 22, 200 yards and a touchdown. All right, welcome back here to HQ pregame. Of course, we've got Pete Prisco, Rand Carthon, and Damian Harris with us. First game in Dublin. It was an interesting one. It felt like the Steelers were going to run away with this the whole time. And then, of course, at the last second, the Vikings came alive here. But, Pete, I think the biggest story here has to be the Steelers' defense kind of looking like the Steelers' defense again.
Well, they pressured the quarterback. I mean, they had 7 sacks. But in fairness to the Vikings, they lost their right tackle early in the game. Brian O'Neill was a really good player. They also lost their center, Ryan Kelly, second concussion for the year, and then lost the backup center. So when you play that way, obviously there's going to be a lot of pressure on the quarterback. Wentz did some good things. Wentz did some bad things. That's what you get with Carson Wentz.
Well, I think that's important for the Steelers defense because with a backup quarterback, especially in a Kevin O'Connell offense, you don't want to let Carson Wentz get comfortable. We've seen what he's capable of in his career at the heights of his career, but this is definitely a moment for the Steelers defense to rise to the occasion, put pressure on him like they did, make him uncomfortable. Again, make him do some bad things, get them off schedule. That way the Vikings dug themselves a hole that they couldn't come out of.
Let's talk about the Vikings for a second, because as you just said, they lost 3 O-linemen. Rand, how worried are you about this team moving forward?
I mean, to not only you're without your starting quarterback, now you're potentially down 3 offensive linemen. And Pete knows this, Damian knows this. It's only so many good offensive linemen that are available to you on the street. And now it's going to really test your roster in terms of your practice squad and the guys that you're developing there. And are they even ready to step in and play for a game, which now leads to a completely different topic, because now you're going to have to adjust the game plan and how Kevin O'Connell calls the game to make up for all these injuries. So it's going to be a lot of moving parts. Oh, and by the way, they're staying another week because they play in London next week. Oh. And so good luck trying to get guys to fly over and understanding if a guy has a passport and how soon you can get these guys over here. It's a lot of moving parts when you're playing these games internationally.
Which is why they always talk about making a team permanent over there. Good luck with that.
I never thought about that. You have to make sure guys have a passport, and even just to get
well,
over
like if he's
overseas.
if he's the GM of the Vikings and he's got to go get 2 replacements off the street this week, I mean, he's got to make sure they have passports and they're capable of getting over there.
I feel like there's a television show about this, but it's opposite, right? With Ted, what's his name? Ted
Lasso.
Ted Lasso.
Maybe we'll have to do that here. Let's talk about Aaron Rodgers for a minute. He's kind of had an up and down season so far. It feels like he did just enough, as we saw there. He's got 200 pass yards. He had 1 touchdown, no interceptions in this game. Damian, how would you rate Aaron Rodgers?
I would rate this performance, let's go with a 7.5 out of 10. The numbers may not reflect it, but something important to note when you watch this game today, Aaron Rodgers got the ball out of his hands at record speed. And we're talking about Aaron Rodgers, who has one of the fastest and most quick releases in the National Football League. And what did he do? He got the ball out quick and fast to DK Metcalf. There were some times where the Steelers had a design run play called, and Aaron Rodgers would just look out to DK Metcalf and give him the nod, and then all of a sudden, ball's out. And I think that's important for an older quarterback at this stage of his career. You want to limit the hits, you want to limit your exposure to pressure, things like that. You know, Aaron Rodgers, we know he takes care of the football, but you want to protect him from getting hurt. Well, the best way to do that is to tell him, and he already knows, get the ball out of your hands fast.
Yeah, I mean, and you look at this team, right, and got DK going today, which is huge. But what about Kenneth Gainwell? And he stepped up in the absence of their starting running back. And, Damian, you know this. To finish a game with 99 yards.
Come on.
To finish, especially if you're the backup, to finish a game with 99 yards, you're trying to. He will petition to the stat guys to try to find that extra yard for himself. But you got those type of performances, and this team is built for Aaron Rodgers. Doesn't have to do miraculous things every week for them to win. He just has to play within the framework of himself and not turn the ball over. And when you having a defense that played the way they did today, 7 sacks and really got after a backup quarterback, that's all you can ask for.
Should have put his head down harder on one of those runs. He would have had 101. Come on, Kenneth.
I do want to say this, since we're on the topic of running backs. I do think it was a good sign to see Caleb Johnson active today.
Yes.
I saw him getting some carries late in the 4th quarter when they're trying to seal the game, run the clock out. And that's a good way to instill confidence in a young guy that made a big mistake last week. Obviously, he wants to flush it and put it behind him, but there's no better way to instill that confidence back in a young guy than having him in the game, like we talked about, having him active and giving him carries late when the game is on the line to show, okay, special teams, we know you had a blunder, but when it comes to running the football, which is why we drafted you, we still trust you and we still want you out there on the field. We're a better team with you. Well,
and it's a good sign that the Steelers were able to run the football. It's been that's who they've been over the course of their history. They've had problems with it not only this year, but going back to last year. The offensive line, they have a lot of assets invested in that group. They're starting to come together. A lot of young guys on that line. You know, they have second-year center and Frazier, second-year right guard McCormick. Those guys are getting better, and as they get better, they're going to run the ball more. And I think that's something they have to do to take the pressure off Rodgers.
I didn't think you were going to add the sets on the end of that front end of that.
Steelers Nation, let's talk about what just went down in Dublin, Ireland, because the Pittsburgh Steelers didn't just play a football game. They survived a battle and came out with a statement win. A 24-21 victory over the Minnesota Vikings in the NFL's first ever game in Ireland. And let me tell you, this one had everything: grit, dominance, resilience, and that classic heart-pounding drama that only Steelers football can bring. The scoreboard says it was close, but if you watch this game, you know the Steelers controlled it for 3 full quarters, built a 24-6 lead, and only late injuries and some defensive breakdowns made it tight at the end. But the bottom line is this: Mike Tomlin's men got it done, and they are now 3-1, right in the thick of the AFC North race. From the jump, you could feel the energy. Steelers fans turned Dublin into Heinz Field East, overwhelming the streets with black and gold. Reports said it was 70-30 Steelers to Vikings in fan support, and that wave of energy carried on to the field. Aaron Rodgers, at 41 years old, might not light up the stat sheet like in his prime, but his leadership and composure are exactly what this team needed. He engineered key drives early, including that beautiful touchdown strike in the third quarter to DK Metcalf that put the Steelers firmly in control. And let's not forget Chris Boswell's consistency, nailing that field goal in the fourth to push the score to 24 points, giving just enough cushion for the defense to hang on. Now, yes, the fourth quarter wasn't pretty. The Vikings came alive, Carson Wentz hit on some plays, and suddenly it was 24-21. But here's where I see the glass half full. Mike Tomlin was brutally honest after the game. He said it plain: the defense was leaking oil because of injuries. Alex Highsmith was already out, Joey Porter Jr. was banged up, Jaylen Warren was questionable, and late in the game, depth became an issue. When you lose that many key pieces, your schemes change. You can't blitz as much, you can't roll coverages the way you want, and you're forced into survival mode. Tomlin admitted it, owned it, and you know what? That accountability is why this team fights for him every single week. The bigger story is this: even with a patched-up defense, the Steelers still found a way. Cam Hayward, at 36 years old, continues to anchor that line. TJ Watt did what TJ Watt always does: wrecked drives and kept the Vikings off balance. Rookie Derek Harmon is starting to emerge, showing flashes of why the Steelers invested in him. And how about Peyton Wilson? Recovering that fumble last week and now stepping into more snaps, this kid is showing he belongs. The defense may have bent, but they did not break, and that's the DNA of Steelers football. Offensively, the story remains the same. It's not explosive yet, but it's opportunistic. Rodgers threw smart, kept mistakes limited, and spread the ball around. DK Metcalf continues to prove he's the true #1 weapon this team desperately needed after George Pickens was traded. Calvin Austin III stepped up again in big moments, showing that he can be that clutch playmaker. And even though the run game still needs a lot of work, Jaylen Warren being hurt didn't help. But you can see flashes that if this offensive line gels, this unit can take off. Let's also not overlook the significance of this win. Minnesota came in 4-0 in international games, never losing outside the U.S., and they were hyped with Jordan Addison back from suspension alongside Justin Jefferson. Carson Wentz may not be J.J. McCarthy, but he's a savvy vet, and he just hung 48 points on Cincinnati the week before. The Steelers walked into that pressure cooker, into a historic international spotlight, and sent the Vikings home with their first ever international loss. That matters. That's a statement win for a team that's been doubted since week 1. And Mike Tomlin said something that stuck with me. He criticized the lack of aggressiveness late, even admitting that the offense should have stepped on the gas instead of just trying to hold on. That honesty means he's going to make adjustments. You can bet next week we're going to see more balance, more urgency, and maybe more opportunities for Aaron Rodgers to close games with his arm instead of hoping the defense bails them out. That's growth. That's leadership. And that's the mindset of a team that's not just trying to survive the season, but build toward a playoff run. So where do we stand now, Steelers Nation? At 3-1, tied with the Ravens for control in the AFC North, with the Bengals spiraling and the Browns looking inconsistent, the Steelers are exactly where they want to be. They've won ugly, they've won gritty, and now they've won internationally in front of the world. This team is building something, brick by brick, and when they finally put it all together, offense, defense, and special teams in sync, watch out, because the Pittsburgh Steelers are going to be one of the toughest outs in football. Steelers Nation, I want to hear from you. What stood out most in this win? Was it the black and gold invasion of Dublin? Was it Rodgers' leadership in the clutch? Was it TJ Watt reminding the world that he's the best defensive player alive? Or was it Tomlin's honesty, admitting where they struggled but promising to fix it? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Smash that like button if you're proud of this team fighting through adversity, and don't forget to subscribe to Steelers Nation Wire for more reactions, breakdowns, and raw passion straight from the heart of Steelers Nation. This wasn't just a win. It was a reminder that no matter where we play, no matter the odds, the Pittsburgh Steelers will always find a way.